Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel today for a special interview. Yes, we're still in Tribeca season, and today I'm very excited to talk to this woman who wears all of the hats for her new short film that just premiered last night at Tribeca Film Festival. Yeah, I'm talking about the film Ebb and Flow. Nate, thank you so much for the time and congratulations thus far on your film. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm okay. I'm doing well. Tired from yesterday, but really very thrilled to, have had the chance to screen the film and share it with everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
thrilled to
feel
be here.
tired. I hope you had a hell of a time and celebrated and was given all of the flowers you deserve. Yeah, let's go right
Thank
back
you.
to that. Last night you had your world premiere. Tribeca is one of the biggest film festivals in the year, so right there alone just marks the success thus far of the film. But for you to see this film, knowing all of the hard work, as I mentioned, you wearing all of the hats: writer, director, producer, editor. This is a passion project, obviously. Being able to celebrate the release of this film with the world, how was it for you?
It was a little nerve-wracking for sure, but honestly, it was very liberating. Like as you said, it was very hard to make this film. It took a very long time, between writing it and um, getting some funding together, and just to be able to share it with an audience was thrilling. And I think more than anything, um I was happy to be able to share it at a time like this, because the film does talk about, growing up in Lebanon, what it meant in the early 2000s, and, having to live against the backdrop of political instability, which is very much still happening today right now in
Hmm.
Lebanon. So I was happy to at least be able to give the audience, a sense of, that's what's still happening. There are some
Yeah.
people that are growing in the situation right now in Lebanon with the war. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to circle back on some of those points you made. The first thing I did want to ask before we got into the gist and some of the meanings and the tones of the film is I'd be remiss if I didn't start off because obviously being at a film festival, the goal is not only for the world to see it, but you want to ensure there's a way that folks who's not attending the festival for opportunity to see this, along with future expansions of short films. So for you, just want to start there. What is the ultimate goal in terms of this project? It is a short film, run times I think close to about 20, close to about 20
Yeah,
minutes,
like
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So with a story, honestly, that's so like it's so gritty and real because it is real. And as you mentioned, just yesterday in the news, we're hearing about things happening in
Yeah.
Lebanon. What ultimately is the goal to in terms of further expanding? Is you thinking feature length film? Are you thinking something episodic? Was sort of the mind thoughts behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually developing a feature film that is based on the short. So it's not, I wouldn't say that the shorts is a proof of concept necessarily. I think it could, stand alone. But there is a feature film that I'm developing that has similar tones, similar themes, similar characters. So it is also a coming of age story and also a family drama that is against the backdrop of political instability. That is the electricity crisis and, some of the issues that are happening in Lebanon. So um, ideally, as they say, short films try to help launch a director's career in a sense. So I'm hoping that this could, prove that this is what my team and I can make, and that we have more stories to tell that are very similar to this. And yeah, just hoping we can push the feature and make a bigger story happen.
Absolutely. I say like myself and my outlet. The goal is to push inclusion and diversity in terms of entertainment, and that's been our focus. And is identifying filmmakers such as yourself, teams such as the teams you have, in order to really project the stories that need to be told. So I'm very excited for that, and I also think that
Thank
selfless act of what you're trying to do is ultimately going to lead to so many more things down the line. Um,
thank you.
just 4 years from your previous short, why was this the time now to get back into that creative flow in order to get this flow? Because pun intended, to get into that creative flow in terms of wanting to get this story written, directed, and so on.
Can you ask that question again?
Yeah, so it's just 4 years after the release of your previous short film.
Yes.
Why was it the time now in order for you to, pen to paper and getting back into the director seat and so on?
Absolutely. So, The easy answer is that I am a recent graduate of the NYU grad film program. So this was, in a sense, the next project. But actually, even though that was the next project in the program, I was struggling a lot to write the next story. It was a lot of the stories that I write are somewhere between, some of them are in New York, but a lot of them are also based in Beirut, the two places that I've lived in. Um, and what felt I started like the reason I started writing Ebb and Flow is because the revolution in 2019 broke out in Lebanon, and that was around the time when we were trying to figure out what our next project was. Um, and I couldn't write for a while because I used to be the person who was on the streets. I used to be the person who was trying to push the activism as far as I can. And it was very hard to not be on the streets in Beirut. And then I just, the only way that I could try and deal with it or console that is just by writing. And from one thing to another, I started to write about how I grew up in Lebanon, about how my niece was growing up there then, and how I've started to worry about her and what needs to happen, and like how is she going to have a future there. And eventually, I, it brought me back to how I grew up in Lebanon. I was growing up in a time when bombings, political assassinations, all of that, but we somehow just still managed to find our way in a sense in between all of that and seek a sense of normalcy. So when I was writing that film, um, I started to write something completely different, which was a script about the first moment that I saw in my parents' eyes, the fear or the worry.
Mm,
And as an adult, I realized when the revolution broke out that this was the first time that I actually understood what that
mm.
fear was, what that look was. So just like, I kept writing and the story just took so many different shapes. And as we were then the pandemic hit and we couldn't shoot for a while, like if we had the chance to shoot, I think I would have actually shot a completely different script, but
Yeah.
it kept evolving. And um, yeah, when we got the chance to shoot it, I just knew that, okay, this is the next story that I need to tell. This is, I think, what I've been building up for
Yeah.
during my training at NYU and in the stories that I wanted to tell before, try and bridge that gap or I don't know. Also a way for me to reflect, I think, on how we grew up and, what we went through, heal those emotions.
Yeah, you didn't quite say it, but I easily grasp that. Although you're not on the streets, filmmaking is your form of activism, and,
Yeah.
and that's powerful. It's extremely powerful and it's selfish
Thank
because
you.
there's so many other stories you could tell. You could your fantasy, could think about the next Disney princess, whatever it may be. But the fact that you want to talk about something that's near and dear to you, and at times could even imagine completely triggering and traumatizing because
Yeah.
this is your life and again when you are exposing something so close personal and raw to you as I said just yesterday in the news we hear about bombings in
Yeah.
Lebanon um and to want to move forward with that. I mean, it just takes a special person such as yourself in order to do so.
Mhm.
Again, I'm thankful for the opportunity to check this film out and have and being able to talk to you about it because these are the stories that we need to see in the world. We need these awareness, and I will be the first one to say that even the stuff that we see on the news is just a glimpse of the trueness of what's actually happening on
Yeah.
the streets. And with yourself living that, and as you said, just generations within your family, this is the real and authentic view and perspective of it. So, again, thank you.
I mean, thank you for taking the time and for saying all of this. I think there is one thing that the producer and I really were hoping, Emblem Flow would come across as, which is it is yes, it is a film about the current political situation and everything that's happening, but unfortunately, everything that we have from the region is always catastrophe news and, images that we've become so desensitized to and so used to that, when the current situation, like with all the war that's happening, when you hear it at some point, you're like, okay, scrolling through Instagram, and it's just more content, unfortunately, at this point. And that happened as well during the August 2020 explosion in Lebanon. And what I hope this film can do is actually show a story that isn't just about destruction and, that political instability. It's really a coming of age story. It's a story of a first kiss, and
Yeah.
eventually that's what, lead, or the main character, this is what she goes through. But after everything that she's gone through throughout the entire day, this is kind of what stays with her, because when you're a teenager,
Yeah.
even we see those pictures, and we see those sometimes gruesome and horrifying pictures, but there are a lot of humans behind them, and they're
Yeah.
like us, they're not very different from anyone else anywhere.
It's truly a beautiful story. I definitely, as we
Thank you.
coming up on a time, I definitely want to talk a little bit about the performances in this film. First thing I did want to make sure I highlight is landing on the title of Ebb and Flow. And we used a lot of the buzzwords throughout our talks thus far, but it is described as something that changes in a regular and repeated way. But then also when you look at the synopsis here, it talks about redefining normalcy. How did you know this was the title that you wanted to land on? And ultimately, if there's anything else that hasn't been mentioned, what does the title signify for yourself?
I think the title signifies a cycle, right? Like we go through what I mean, the characteristic of Lebanese identity is like, war, destruction, and everything's good. And then again, it rises again, and then it falls again. And um, it's just very cyclical. And I think it's kind of being somewhere, always finding yourself somewhere in between. You kind of have the ebb, and then you have the flow all over again. And um, this was, it's not necessarily just what is said and what is in the film, like coming of age, destruction, coming of age, but it's also the experience that, Lulwa's experience is not just the experience of my generation, it's the experience of the generation that was before it, it's the experience of the current generation, as I mentioned. And this was why I felt like Ebb and Flow was a fit. But also, Beirut, or Lebanon, one of the major, I mean, through north to south there, it's on the Mediterranean, it's on the Mediterranean coast. And um, the the sea was a big part of us growing up. We would spend our entire summers there. I grew up 2 blocks away from it, so it's also, very, it's Beirut. It's not very different from it. So trying to mix those different elements together, and we even tried to portray the water as much as possible in the film,
Mm.
because it is part of our Lebanese identity. So yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely picked up on that. And as we talk about the film, I'd be remiss if we didn't spend a quick second talking about Donna Attila. Is that how you
Atala,
pronounce it?
yeah.
Attila performance here? This young lady has a bright future. First time I've been exposed to her, and I instantly connected. I grasped every bit of the emotions that she was kind of going through, the defiance as a young lady, the googly eyes for the boy she's seeing, and of course I was the boy on the other side with the googly eyes for her. Just being able to like step back into those shoes, and then obviously, as you mentioned, the backdrop of everything that's kind of happening and that fear, but also just like that idea of like, what does this mean? And what is the ramifications of the not alerting my mother, who was concerned. She thought it was one place, that was another, just all these sorts of different things that like I resonate with in some capacity. When you casted her, when she was on board, even to the point that the first time you looked her in her eyes and you knew she was going to be able to tell stories within it. Talk me through all of those moments, and ultimately, is she a part and potentially a part of the future of this story?
I sure hope so. If that's possible, I would love to work with Donna again. She was just she was such a great collaborator, honestly, and I'm so grateful that she played the role of Lilwa. Like, I can't imagine anyone else, as the Lilwa character anymore. Um, I think so. We also, Donna graduated from undergrad. She had just finished from undergrad when we were preparing for the film, and I think this was what was really helpful, is that, she had just gotten her acting training, and we were able to discuss and, go deep into the film and what it meant. And Donna is such an incredible artist. Like, she's not only an actress, she's also a singer and a writer and a performer. And um, I was very happy that she trusted me. It takes time to trust, to build trust with an actor, especially in such a story, that requires a lot of emotion, but also requires a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I think we spent a lot of time rehearsing, um, just to build that trust relationship. That I think when we got on set, it was just very understood. And I think some things. Um, that she picked up on in the script that maybe I had written in the subconscious, but with the busyness of everything that's going around and how overwhelming everything gets, you forget it. And
Yeah.
I was just so relieved, to be able to depend on her that she picked up on these things. She's
Yeah.
able to translate them. She's able to. And what was great is that her and Ayaz Aited, who plays the best friend, Jana, they got along really well from the very beginning, and their
Amazing.
energy even offset, became a little
Yeah.
bit like the best friends on the screen. Yeah, I'm so incredibly grateful, and I'm very happy that I was able to build that trust relationship with her. Because even one of the last, well, the day before last, we shot the scene when she looks at her mom in the end,
Yeah.
and that was, I think, just seeing the subtlety and the changes in Donna's face with
Yes.
that, emotional journey that she goes on. Yeah, honestly, I think I can't wait to work with her again and just build more stories like that with her.
Me too. I'm excited hearing you talk about it. Truly,
Thank you.
truly.
Thank you.
Uh, for my final question for you today, I've just really received so much from this interview, and as well as
Thank
watching the
you.
film. Everybody may not have an opportunity to talk to you. I'm sure you're going to really be out there being vocal about this project and wanting to get it out. And we'll be here at our outlet, ensuring that folks go out and check this film out as well too, and keeping up with you and your latest updates. But for the final question, I want to know, with this film, for all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put in terms of filmmaking, just for all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've done in terms of advocating for your people. What is it, the message? What is the awareness that you hope to create about your society, about the culture, about the Lebanese people?
Um, I would say that I think the main thing is that I just hope, I can speak for the Lebanese people, but I hope this also spans across, other Palestinian people, Syrian people, like people from the entire Levantine region. I just hope that, we are able to reclaim some sort of humanity
Mm,
around our stories. Um, I think this is being able to come to New York and live, the different perspective a little bit and understand those different sides. In a sense, I think I hope to be part of a community, I will say, the Arab filmmaking community that can just help reshape these stories and push all the against all the stereotypes that we're just so used to seeing since the beginning of cinema against, Arabs and people from the region. And the whole point behind making this film is, telling a very relatable and familiar story in a very unrelatable world. And
mm.
I just hope that, you know, you can see the main characters or like people in the stories that we make as someone that you see walking down the street in New York or anywhere else.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Nate, thank you so much for your time,
Thank you
folks.
for taking the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Folks, Ebb and Flow is premiering this week at Tribeca Film Festival 2024. There's going to be a screening Tuesday, June 11th, June 15th, June 16th, and then obviously keep up with Nay and all of her future projects and the future of this film, as it what I would assume is going to be doing some rounds on the film festival circuit
I hope so.
ultimately. Yeah, and then we'll see what happens as this story expands. But truly, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for putting this film together, and congratulations thus far.
Thank you so much. And thank you for making space for this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for checking out this interview. Get in the comments, show some love. Hit all the links in the description in order to keep up with everything I just discussed. We'll see you back for more Tribeca coverage very soon.
Ridiculous.